to the horror track here at ConTinual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we are talking about the movies that scared us. But first, let's have our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Darin.
Hey, I'm Darin Kennedy. I am a doctor by day, and by night, I write paranormal thrillers and contemporary fantasy, and I'm currently working on a brand new urban fantasy, I think, septology. If that's 7 books, I'm halfway through book 1, and it's going rather smashingly, if I do say so myself.
Very nice. Elle.
Hi, I'm Elle Marie Wood. I'm a psychological horror author by day and night, and I my next release is coming out in 14 days, so that's kind of exciting. Woohoo! Book 2 of the Realm series called Cacophony, and it's a horror sci-fi mashup, really light sci-fi, but still sci-fi, and existential horror, somebody called it, which was pretty doggone cool. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Okay. Rachel.
I'm Rachel Brune, and I do a whole bunch of different things, but one of the things I do is run Crone Girls Press, which is an indie horror micro press publishing primarily anthologies. And in fact, that's what I should be doing tonight, is finishing up those contracts for our 4th full-length anthology, Stories We Tell After Midnight, Volume 3.
Very nice.
Nice title.
Now, we've done several of these movies that scared us panels. So, who wants to toss out a movie we haven't talked about before that scared you or that took you by surprise, at least?
I have one.
Okay, go for it.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
The
The first
original.
one. Number
Okay.
1. Before it got ridiculously silly.
Which famous movie star was that his first movie?
Was that Johnny Depp's first movie?
Johnny Depp's first movie.
Oh yeah. That movie, even now I think about it, the whole idea of don't go to sleep because there's something in your dreams that's going to kill you. Oh God. And I can't stay awake once I'm tired. I can't like actually make myself stay awake. Nothing works. Coffee, soda, that stuff doesn't work at all. So if I'm going to sleep, I'm just going to be screaming as I as I fall asleep because of what's happening. That movie still gets me.
I think that one is one of the ultimate horror movie ideas they've ever had, because nobody can't sleep. I mean, everybody has to sleep. And so if there's anything more powerless, then you will eventually fall asleep. And when that happens, I will get you. That's about as powerless as you get.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And when
it's
you're
tough.
asleep, you're defenseless.
Right. I was always amazed.
Until the 3rd movie.
Right. Which I'm saying it got to be a little silly at one point, but it was just kind of amazing. I don't know, my landscape and my dreams are not as detailed as, at least I don't remember my dreams very much when I wake up. Like the ones that stick it's not really the full dream, it's just pieces and parts. But I just kept thinking, if you can imagine something like that and then try to fight it in your dreams, or at least know you should be running in your dream, just how terrifying is that?
I had a dream just a few nights ago, though, where there was a bag of coins and it fell open and a coin fell to the ground and it had a red rook from a chess piece on the back. And I can still see it in my head. So I have extremely detailed dreams. So I can totally imagine if Freddie decided to come get me, that I would see him in Technicolor as he did the claw thing.
Ugh, it's horrible. It's a horrible thought.
Have you ever had those dreams where you're trying to run because something is scary and you just, like, your body will not move?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't force yourself. Even if you move forward, it's just like kind of shuffling forward. Yeah. No, I think I'll skip the rewatch.
Right.
The one that's worse than that, and I think what really does it, has anyone ever had sleep paralysis before?
Yes, that is the most terrifying thing I've ever had in my life.
I've had it a couple times, but one time I was in college and I'd overslept for ROTC for my PT test, or PT, like 5 o'clock in the morning or something. And I woke up and I can remember, like, my lungs won't breathe and I can't roll over. And I'm sitting there going, breathe, like in my mind going, breathe, breathe, breathe. And my body just won't do it. And finally I went, oh, and then I was like, oh my God, I have never been so scared in my life, because I was truly paralyzed. And it was a very bizarre thing. I've only had it happen that intense one time in my life, but I still remember it.
Yeah, mine was in college as well. And I was screaming though. I could tell I wasn't doing whatever I was trying to tell myself to do. And so I was screaming, but it was like, in my head, it wasn't like a real yell. And I woke up and I'm like, ah! I'm just like, oh my God, what happened to me?
Well, and if you've had a child that gets night terrors, this is also terrifying. It's terrifying for them. It's terrifying for you to wake up out of an exhausted sleep because your child is screaming. And then you go in to deal with them and they're not home. They're not home. And that is really frightening because you don't know how to get into their head to get them out.
Mm-hmm.
And they could hurt themselves. They're thrashing, they could punch you in the nose. They're just on autopilot and they're terrified. And it's a very scary thing. And at certain ages, that's very common. But let me tell you, it takes a toll on the parent as well as the kid. It's just no fun. But it's terrifying. Yeah,
I can imagine. Ugh.
Now we watched one that we don't usually watch a lot of the really, really scary stuff, but this caught us by surprise. It was a Korean drama, Sweet Home.
Oh, yes. What a good show.
Let me tell you, be very, very careful if you ever rent an apartment in Seoul. That's the takeaway from that.
Mm-hmm.
Check out your neighbors.
Yep.
But it's very creepy and you have no idea where it's going. And then it ends up being kind of zombie apocalypse, but it's zombie apocalypse filtered through a Korean cultural lens.
Mm-hmm.
So the archetypes are different. The expectations are different. It was really well done. And you've got the lady with the creepy lady in the beginning with the empty baby carriage, which reminded me of the log lady in Twin Peaks.
Mm.
But there was just creep factor on top of suspense on top of horror, and it was extremely well done.
That's true. I mean, I find that a lot of the movies that I'm enjoying these days are, Korean movies, Korean dramas, definitely Japanese movies. I really, their take on ghost, Japanese takes on ghost is just, it scares me to death. I just cannot get by it. But yeah, so Sweet Home was fantastic. I mean, if anyone's watching Squid Game, that is fantastic. And then, all these things are just popping up. And one of my favorite movies, like I think ever in terms of zombies, at least, is Train to Busan. Again, another Korean film. Fantastic. Just a wonderful zombie movie, just different from what we've been seeing. I mean, there's running zombies. Yeah, we're used to that. And, but there's an emotional toll that's shown here that is different from anywhere else. And it really invested me, at least. And I got sucked in. It was amazing. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
And we have somebody new joining us. So please introduce yourself and tell us what you write.
Hi, I'm Alledria Hurt, and I write horror, fantasy, science fiction, and whatever my little heart desires most of the time. Currently writing about a necromancer. Makes me happy.
Yay.
Very cool.
Well, to go back to the Korean drama piece, I'm fascinated. I've seen like 4 shows now in a row that centered on Grim Reapers and having to resolve grudges before you can move on so that you can level up in the afterlife to a better reincarnation. It's not a heaven or hell thing. It's, are you going to come back as a wealthy person or are you going to come back as a pig? And so the stakes are kind of immediate there. And I'm fascinated because since it's coming from a non-Western perspective, the lore is different, the legends are different, the mythology is different. So you go into it thinking, oh, I know what's going to happen. No, you don't, because it doesn't happen that way in their stories. And it's just so wonderful. It's not even trope flipping because they're not even starting with the same tropes.
Right.
And I love that because while these aren't all scary movies, there's suspense, there's high stakes, there's a whole bunch of supernatural stuff going on. But it's unexpected. And when you're a big fan of the genre and you immerse yourself in this stuff, it gets hard to be surprised. And I'm loving being surprised. Yes,
agreed. Well said, because that's the problem with horror movies, I think, in general. You watch, so we're in October now, so I do this thing where I try to watch a movie a day, right? And I watch movies like every other day, I guess, every 2 days anyway. So this can be difficult when you're like saying, okay, it's gotta be every day, there's gotta be something new. Nah, I'm not finding the new stuff. It's a challenge. But that is the issue. Sometimes you can't find yourself being surprised. I watched a Nigerian zombie movie and it didn't surprise me, but I was like, I'm trying this new thing. I don't really care. I'm gonna try something fantastically new and completely. And it was similar to what we do here in the US for zombies, but it was a Nigerian movie, which is completely different because, it's interesting. The language, there's a lot of English being interspersed, kind of like Creole when you speak English, but there's French and then there's something else. And so half the time I understand what's being said, and the other half I'm like, why did I think I knew what was being said? I need to I thought I heard English. Maybe I didn't. And so that piece has been cool. But sometimes just changing the environment is important. I think as horror fans, more so than maybe other genres, we kind of have to flip it a bit.
There's I know it's not technically a movie, but a TV show, To the Lake, which was a Russian zombie/plague horror show. And I felt a little bit of the same thing watching it, that it was very interesting to see the idea of it, and it was one of those, apocalypse as it's happening, so they show, oh, there's news reports of this new plague, and then you start seeing, all this stuff, and people are trying to get out. And it was really interesting to me to see how that story, situated in a very Russian setting with very Russian characters, just played out. Really good. It's on Netflix. Highly recommend it. But I mean, that's one of the cool things about Netflix is they have all of these really, really cool non-US shows, especially horror shows, that you could just sit down and be like, yeah, I think I'll watch something from Africa this week, and next week something from Asia. So, why not?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we had seen a Portuguese one, and I can't think of the name of it now. But again, the lore was a little bit different. The expectation around the monsters was a little bit different. So maybe it didn't surprise someone from Portugal at all. But for someone who's not steeped in that culture, it's like, well, I didn't see that coming. So that is a lot of fun watching some of these non-Western European horror shows. Is you get surprised. And man, let me tell you, we think our ghosts are badass until you see some of those Pacific Rim ghosts. Oh my God. They are so scary.
They are terrifying.
Yeah, they make our ghosts look really, really wussy by comparison.
Like Casper the ghost, when you after a while,
it's like the 1890s, cigar smoking ghost has nothing on these people. Nothing.
So what do you want to rewatch as you come into the Halloween season? What are your go-tos to be re-scared?
I don't know that it's to be re-scared, but I watch all of the Saw movies as comfort movies. Like, I get sick and I will sit there, and because I have the entire first 7 on box set DVD, I just sit there and I put them in and I fall asleep and I wake up halfway through and I'm like, oh, so-and-so is getting it this time. And then I go back to sleep and I don't miss anything because I've seen it 1,000 times. And then it's time for the next DVD and it's like, oh, okay, we're going to watch the next one now because I'm sick and I don't feel like having to think.
Yeah.
I'm on my 4th and a half rewatch of the entire 15 seasons of Supernatural. And it's like, okay, who's the winner? Okay, we got a Wendigo this time. Oh, they're in hell again. Oh, well, and that's my comfort gym. So I really can't say anything about Saw.
I will put in Angel Heart anytime. I'm sorry, Rachel. Sorry about that. I will put in Angel Heart like anytime. If I pass it on something and it's on, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and watch it. Anytime.
Okay, how do you feel about Angel Heart versus Serpent in the Rainbow?
Angel Heart. Angel Heart's the best. To me, because I saw Serpent in the Rainbow coming. I caught on. Angel Heart, I always see something different that I didn't notice before. And I'm always like, look at that, look what's on that table. I didn't even notice it, things like that. I mean, I don't know, Serpent and the Rainbow was great, no doubt. But I saw it coming, and I have watched it again, and it's still a very good movie. It holds up, it really does. But Angel Heart is like, for me, it really, really is. I love it. Johnny favorite. Come on.
For me, it's the classic horror movies. Maybe not, the old black and white, Nosferatu, Dracula, Frankenstein. And for me, it's maybe not necessarily to be scared as to revisit the classic monsters. I also, so I'm a big wimp when it comes to horror movies, which sounds weird to say, but I grew up, like, my parents didn't let us watch rated R movies until we were, in our late teens. So I just never really kind of got into the horror genre. And so when I watch them, I'm like, oh, this one's a little too much for me. I'm gonna go put back Old Yeller on the shelf. I'm just kidding. But so yeah,
heard that in a long time. Old Yeller.
Listen, when you're a kid, it's traumatic.
Well, it is. I fully remember my reaction to that story.
But I mean, we watched The Fog. The Fog. Whew, that was very scary. And George Romero's, the original Night of the Living Dead, which every time I watch that, again, it's the same thing. There's something new and something creepy. And then for my comfort watch, okay, it's gonna be a little cheesy, but there's a movie called Devil Dogs with Kevin McKidd. And I was on big Kevin McKidd kick for a while. And it's hard to find. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. I had to buy a DVD and play it in my Blu-ray.
Okay.
And it's about a group of British soldiers out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't realize that Great Britain had middles of nowhere quite as remote as these ones. And there's werewolves, which are, one of my favorite things. So yeah, so maybe not necessarily something that would be scary to somebody else, but for me, I think it's fun.
How about you, Darin?
Comfort watch.
Yeah.
I like to always go back and watch the original Halloween. I always love that one because I think that one is definitely the yardstick by which everything since has been measured, because they did stuff that is, I mean, it may look kind of tame now, but it's still scary. And if there's a scarier theme song than that little piano run, I don't know what it is. I actually learned how to play that one way back in, like, when I was like 13, and I would sit on my piano. I'm sure I drove my parents crazy, but I learned how to get that nice little creepy thing, but I would play it year round because
yes,
I like the original Halloween and Halloween 2. Chasey, I never do understand. I work at a hospital every day and we have the lights on, and I never understand why every time you're watching a show or a movie, I mean, even at 3 o'clock in the morning, we leave the lights on. And you go in these like hospitals. If I walked into a hospital, I'd be like, why are the lights off? I would be like, then of course I would, get killed by the person whenever I asked the question but I've never understood why they
Now,
turn.
I've got to say, I worked in a hospital. Now, this would have been in the early 90s. And after about 7 o'clock, the corridor lights dimmed. So it was a rehab hospital, wasn't an emergency room, trauma care center. But yeah, it did. They did actually dim the corridor lights after about 7
Too
o'clock.
dim?
Yeah. No, maybe not quite that dim. Not emergency lighting.
Hello, this is Dr. Kennedy. I'm here to. Who's speaking? I can't see you. I like to go into the rooms looking like this. Hi.
One of the movies that I think gets underrated for the creep factor of it, because it's theoretically a kids movie, is Hocus Pocus with Bette Midler. Okay. They're killing kids, they're eating them, they're making themselves young. And yes, there's a lot of humor, but there's a lot of dark humor. And if you really sit back and watch this, having this parent moment as your children are watching this going, what the hell did I just put my child in front of? So it's
one of those movies that changes as you age.
Mhm.
Because as you age, when you're a kid, you're like identifying with the child, you're identifying with the children, and the children are like adventure, yay, woo. And then as an adult, as a parent, you're going, wait a second here. Wait, did you just, what?
It's kind of like that first time you watch The Breakfast Club and you're kind of like, well, the principal's got a point.
Yes.
And then they hand you your card and say, you're officially an old.
That's I've never gotten into that movie, but it's just for me in the same mindset of the fairy tales that we would read to children, that I stopped in the middle of Hansel and Gretel one day because I'm like, I used to have these read to me. This will be great. And I just started reading and I was like, wait a minute, no. And let's put it away. Like, nope. No. And none of these, no. Little Red Riding Hood, I knew I wasn't going to read, but I'm like, forget the rest of them because all of them are terrible. And we heard these stories growing up though.
Yeah,
and
but a lot of these stories also got Disney-fied when we were growing up.
I think I'm a hair older than you because I had them read from the book and they were creepy. People were actually dying.
Yeah, I remember a lot of them being like Disney movie stuff. And then my dad bought me a book of fairy tales because he thought, this is my dad and I love him. Hi, Dad. But his parenting skills, not 100%. We've discussed this. So he decided that he was going to buy me a book of fairy tales. So he bought me a book of fairy tales and I read it. And then I was like, okay, and this is probably why I'm damaged.
But even Disney-fied, you know, as an adult, you grow up with these things and you say, oh, it's Disney-fied. Try taking a small child through, well, the ride isn't there anymore, but the Snow White ride at Disney World. It's a dark ride. It's got the trees reaching out. And I had a toddler that went through the whole thing in what we called a hamster ball because she just went into a fetal curl and we had to pick her up out of the boat like that. She wasn't unclenching.
My earliest memory is of the Snow White ride at Disney World, because right when you pass underneath the last doorway, the witch is over the door and they shine a light on her. And I think it scared the bejesus out of me. And just like my little coin with the red tower on the back, can still see it sort of like 47 years later, can still see the witch over the door. I remember that. And I don't think I remember anything earlier than that.
Wow.
So it's funny. We talk about Disney-fied, but Disney has pretty creepy, scary, weird moments too. Yeah.
Well, the mom is always dead in all these movies. I mean, you know, there we go. Start there. But the Little Mermaid is my, and I was older. My sister's considerably younger than me, so I took her to see it. She got scared of Ursula, and and so I never saw what was happening with Ursula. And then years later, my daughter loves the little Ariel, everything. That's the princess we love. No other princess is just Ariel. Put this thing on. I'm just like, oh, maybe I'll see what happens with. No, she's crying over Ursula now too. We went to a play. Ursula comes out, and she was like, and I'm like, I'm never gonna see what happens with Ursula. Can she be that bad? I've since finally seen what happens, and I'm like, well, she's creepy. She is creepy.
Well, and the Harry Potter movies, there's a 6.5 year range between our youngest and our oldest. Mm-hmm. So even when he was old enough, our youngest was old enough to sit through a whole movie, I noticed a pattern that every time we'd get to the really scary part, he needed to go out to the bathroom. I didn't get to see the climactic fight scene in any of the Harry Potter movies until they came out on DVD because somebody had to go to the bathroom. And I get it. I mean, at certain ages, those fight scenes they're real and they're scary.
I think the one that got me when I was little was, I don't remember if anybody remembers the Pinocchio, not the original one, but the one where the guy comes with the ship and he comes to town. This is after Pinocchio's been made into a real boy. And so it's like movie 2, he's a real boy and he gets lured onto the ship and he starts turning back into a puppet.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I remember watching this, and this is probably why I don't do marionettes now, because I watched this and I was like,
So don't read my second Fugue and Fable book then.
okay, that's good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because it was just one of those ones where I was like, I was watching this and it was as bad as a train wreck. I could not look away, but I was terrified.
Yeah.
There was the
I was just going to say, the second book is all Stravinsky, and the second Stravinsky is called Petrushka, and it's basically the story of 3 creepy puppets that come alive and run around town. That's literally what it's about. So I totally stuck that in the book, and it's awesome. But the original ballet is really cool, but it's kind of creepy too.
Yes, those Russians and their creepy dolls.
Well, you say dolls, it made me think of Tales from the Hood.
Yeah.
Remember that? With those dolls that came to life and were just, no, I didn't know I had a problem with dolls until that, but no. I've since played Resident Evil. I think it's the most recent one. The name is escaping me. And there were dolls. And I was like, look, I don't think I can finish this. I was like, I just don't think, if they attack me, I don't think I can do it.
There was a show that came out in the probably late 70s. It was a movie of the week kind of thing. It was Trilogy of Terror. And it was 3 very scary episodes back to back. And one of them had, I think, either Karen Black or Karen Valentine, and a doll. And the doll is possessed, and it basically takes her over. And in the end, she's possessed, but it's an evil doll. And that just terrified me from the get-go.
You know, since we said something about the doll being possessed, what do you guys think about the doll? What's that movie? Oh no, it just escaped me.
Yes, that one.
I remember that. Okay.
At
But
the
what do you
end,
guys think about the doll? There's the Conjuring doll. What's her name again? Annabelle. What do you guys think of Annabelle? Is Annabelle scary? What do you think?
Hell no. I'm visiting Toronto, and I'm walking around, and I'm up there in basically Toronto's version of Times Square, and there's a movie theater. I'm like, I want to see a movie in Canada. That would be cool. Let me go see what's showing. And I'm like, Conjuring. I'm like, okay, that's a ghost story, but I don't think it's a demonic possession movie because I don't watch demonic possession movies anymore. I will go watch The Conjuring. Totally a demonic possession movie. I'm like, how has this happened? No. So, and because the thing that gets me the most, the thing I if I never see this again for the rest of my life, where the joints bend backwards when people get possessed, I'm like, please stop now. Stop doing that. I literally never want to see that again. So
that sounds oddly specific, Darin. Have we seen this possibly, like, has there been an inciting incident towards your desire not to see demonic possession again?
5 years of medical practice?
Oh God. Well, The Exorcist might be the inciting incident, really. I mean, after seeing that, I don't want to see anybody crab walk anywhere. I don't want to see vomit. There's lots of stuff I don't want to see after having watched The Exorcist.
I still say that they've never made as creepy a horror movie as they made in the 70s since the 70s. Because Omen and Exorcist,
Rosemary's Baby,
Baby, they have a feel that Carrie, even stupid split screen. I've said this thing on a previous one of our things, but it's never felt like that again. They try and they come pretty close, but they've never gotten back to that. And it's because everything looks too glossy. Whenever it looks like you filmed it on like your Super 8 camera and now you're just watching it, it scares the crap out of you.
Yes, I agree. We have that television where it kind of looks like the person is like in the room and like really you can see all of like their pores almost.
You got an LED.
I can't stand it because I'm like, no, that's not the way I want to watch a movie.
That's still my plasma.
right?
And
I just want to
they can
see.
take my plasma set from my cold dead hand, because those LED things, they just make everything look hello, and you're just like, please stop.
Right, back up, right? Like, I don't need you that close, and I don't need to see as much of your everything. I
don't want to see your pores.
Well, the way they often indicate that there is something supernatural about to happen when somebody's watching TV and the signal frizzes and it all, and I'm thinking, dude, you just never lived in rural America with bad reception, because that's when you send the youngest person out to move the antenna or hold up the rabbit ears so the rest of us can watch the rest of the show. That's not demonic.
Hit the side of the set, jiggle the knob. It's like, yeah, certain stuff is lost to history. Like, people don't get it, but there's also sets.
I was gonna say, there's also when you look at filmmaking per se in the 70s, and you look at the things that they were doing, like in Rosemary's Baby, where they're specifically filming from a certain angle so that you can't see the whole thing, and it leaves you with that unsettled feeling. When the birds, Hitchcock's filming the birds, he doesn't have a budget to have a whole bunch of birds, and so they just go around and shoot B-roll. Every time they see birds, they hop out of the car and shoot. Oh look, there's the birds, let's get them. But it's there. I think that there was some element of when you had to approach filmmaking very intentionally, because you didn't have the ease of CGI, you didn't have the ability to put the things on screen that we have now. I do think that there might be, the more you see, the less scary it gets, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
There's a movie, and I was trying to find it, and it's completely escaping me, but it was another possession movie, but it was kind of, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to look it up. But in essence, the movie was about a woman who gets hired as a caretaker and realizes that basically that the people that she's taking care of, they basically take her over and steal her soul.
Skeleton Key.
Yes,
that's it.
Such a good movie.
Yeah,
that's so creepy. So so good. Highly recommend. Not a lot of gore,
right?
Not a lot of blood, but when you watch it and you see that the scene choices and the shot choices and the acting, whew, get a little chills just thinking about it.
It's true. Well, it used to be a craft. I mean, then we went into the sensationalism, like action movie. Yep, that's exactly it. Going into action movie sensationalism. But like one of the movies, M. Night Shyamalan does a lot of really good things. I think that Old is fantastic. That's the newest. But The Village, I mean, yes, Sixth Sense, we all know. Fantastic flick. But The Village is awesome. Nothing's happening. But it is amazing, and you're captivated. And in the end, as many people as want to tell you they knew that was coming, no, they did not. They did not know that was coming. It's not as rewatchable as The Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense, you figure it out, then you're like, let me go back and see what I missed, because there's got to be clues. But once you see The Village, you know it, and you kind of can't unknow that anymore. But it grips you while you're watching it. You're so interested that, I mean, for me, that's what movie making is about, not necessarily the blood. I like a slasher film every now and then, but I couldn't just watch just slasher stuff. Like, I watched that Hostel stuff, a couple films in that series, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's just,
that's because it's basically gore with no plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gore with no plot. It's like, okay, you have the basic premise is so simple that it's like, look, money talks, and it allows you to do horrible things to other people. That's the whole premise. That's it.
Now, I'm a total sucker for evil buildings. Haunting of Hill House, Rose Red, The Shining. I love a good evil building that gradually somebody comes in and goes, oh, well, none of that stuff is true. I'm going to buy this house and show everybody. And then gradually they become
Amityville Horror.
Eddie Murphy had a lot to say about that particular phenomenon, if you remember back in the day.
What do you say?
Did y'all ever listen to Eddie Murphy's like stand up like in the 80s about horror movies?
I don't remember what he said, but I do remember Delirious and what was the other one? Raw? Which one are we talking about?
It's in the middle of Delirious. He says, people walk in and go, oh, this place is great. And then there's and then people not really like paying attention to what's going on around them. And
yeah,
it was pretty on point.
Oh yeah. Well, when the thing says get out and you're standing there, did you not hear it? I heard it. Get out.
See ya. Let's go to the next listing.
And we would drive and go find that house. Like we didn't do it, but I think I was there twice. Then you just kind of sit and then you drove, because for me it was far. Like it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's like a hike. But you're like, it's a dare. I mean, I went to the Exorcist stairs when I got to DC. Of course I did. So we get to this house and it's in a regular neighborhood. It's not like, so we're sitting there and we're like, let's go close. And we're all like, no, this is good right here.
That's
halfway down the street, we can see it. That's good. Let's go back now.
Yeah, we're here. We'll go apple picking because it is upstate New York, and then we'll take off. It'll be good.
It told the priest to get out. I'm not even going to go in to get out. I'm just getting out. I'm not going to be here.
Have y'all read the? I think it was originally a Tumblr post with the woman who's like, "Oh, I know I've this lovely house and the roses. Oh, they're so great." And as she's going through the house, there's all these weird things like doors that don't lead to anywhere in the basement.
Well, it's always the husband going, where does that door go? And she's like, oh, da 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 da. And like finally he's like, honey, we're not buying this house. But you as you go along, she's like, what? Yeah, that one's brilliant.
Kind of like the Winchester house. That kind of reminds me with the door. The house would like shift or something, and the doors would stop going.
Well, she built it because she was the heir to the Winchester rifle fortune. And a psychic told her that as long as she never finished the building, she could escape the fate of being responsible for all the people ever killed with her family's guns. And so she just built stuff to build stuff. So there are staircases that go to blank walls and doors that open into nothing, and all kinds of twists and turns just to keep building for all the years until she finally died, so that the ghosts of the people shot with Winchester weapons didn't come after her. Well, there's also the LaLaurie house in New Orleans, where we had really terrible things that happened in that house. And I've been on many tours in New Orleans. The tour guides won't be on the same side of the street with the LaLaurie house.
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
They had to look this place up.
New Orleans.
LaLaurie?
Yeah, I think it's the LaLaurie house. If I'm probably mispronouncing it. Yeah, have a strong stomach when you read what actually happened.
Okay. See, now I'm like, let's look this up. Field trip right now.
Yeah.
The spelling.
I was actually on a tour in New Orleans, and they wouldn't even take us into the neighborhood where it was.
It is LaLaurie Mansion.
Is it haunted?
They wouldn't even take us into the neighborhood where it was.
Yeah.
They were just like, nope, we're gonna stop. We're gonna talk about this. We are not going anywhere near it. It's like
wow.
And New Orleans loves its ghosts. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Do people live near it, or is it just off by itself?
No, it's in a city setting. But yeah, the tours I've been on, they would go across the street from it, but they wouldn't go near it.
Wow. So it's like, I will not go close enough to touch the gate. Nope.
Oh, okay then.
So I was going to tell y'all my surprise horror of the late summer / early fall. Y'all know that I watch all the CW superhero shows, and some of them have continued to be good, and some of them have fallen off in my estimation a little bit. But the one that's really good, and I've enjoyed it very much, is this new one called Stargirl. And you would think something called Stargirl with a teen lead and all teenage superheroes is all going to be la 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 la. Well, the first season is really, really dark, because all of the supervillains that killed the old JSA are now trying to kill the kids. And you think that's pretty dark. Well, this year they've taken a DC character called Eclipso, which is basically Satan on Earth. And every episode, it's like, we're superheroes, but the devil is among us. And he is doing, it's creepy every week. And I am loving it because it's like, and I think it's brilliant because they call it summer school. So it's all occurring the summer after the first season. But as it's getting closer, I realized the season finale, I think, is going to be right around Halloween. And they are just nailing it because it gets progressively creepier each week. Like the thing, he makes you see things that you're guilty about or that you feel bad about or can twist your mind. And it's crazy for this to be a teenage superhero show. It's basically a horror show every week. And I love it. It's been really fun.
Well, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina are the same way. You know, if you watch the old Sabrina show with the audio animatronic cat and everything, and you go into this thinking, I know what's happening. Oh no. Much darker, much creepier, much scarier. And sometimes you're like, I can't believe they went there. And it's another teen show that is really dark. And
well, one thing you know you have done something when the Church of Satan is like, excuse me.
And then before they started doing Sabrina, because Sabrina in the old comics is a spinoff of the Archie shows, the first 3 seasons of Riverdale, if you think this is going to be Archie, Betty, and Veronica sipping milkshakes, that was some scary, freaky stuff. I mean, we're talking horned devils appearing in places and Dungeons and Dragons games where you drink poison at the end and die. And I'm like, this is Archie. It was nuts. I had to stop after the 3rd season because they were going to go darker. And I'm like, I don't think I just need to see Jughead go any darker than suicidal Dungeons and Dragons games and horned demons. I think I'm done. Wow. It was pretty spooky.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, and then Sabrina, because she's already a witch, just took that and just jumped off the deep end.
Yeah. Well, folks, we have blown through our time once again. So before we stop, let's go around, let everybody say where we can find you online. And if you've got something new or recent or upcoming, tell us about it, starting with Alledria.
Hi, me again. I'm Alledria Hurt. You can find me online at www.alledriahurt.com. And my most recent book was probably last year, but it includes an evil house and it's called Shelter.
Nice. Elle?
I'm Elmarie Wood. You can find me at elmariewood.com and on Twitter at elmariewood1. I think that's right. And Facebook, it's Elmarie Wood. Yeah, my most recent one's coming out in a couple of days, like 14 days or some crazy thing. It's so exciting. It's book 2 of the Realm series. So come check it out.
Okay. Rachel?
Yes, so Crone Girls Press, we will launch our 4th full-length anthology this month. So if you're in the mood for some short horror stories or some longer horror novellas, check us out at cronegirlspress.com. You can also follow us on Facebook at our Crone Girls Press group. And if you are on Twitter, then we're there too at Crone Girls Press. There's a theme.
Mm-hmm. Darin?
Website, darinkennedy.com. Pithy statements, Darin Kennedy /author or whatever on Facebook. Pretty pictures of flowers, Darin Kennedy author on Instagram. And my 3rd and final book in my Magical Chess series comes out hopefully at the beginning of 2022. It's done and on this very computer and has been sitting on my editor's hard drive for 2 months, just waiting its turn. She said it would be read in October. What month is it currently? So I am eagerly awaiting to see what she thinks of this. And as soon as we're done, I'm going to go watch the last 20 minutes of the new episode of Stargirl because it is pretty awesome.
I'm pretty findable at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. All the social media is a variation of that. I also run the Supernatural TFWNC group on Facebook because I'm kind of obsessed. And then you can usually also find me here at Continual. I've got 2 new books out, Blink under the Morgan Bryce name, which is everything from mafia ghosts and Sicilian witches to heroic food trucks set in Cape May, New Jersey, and Legacy, which has pirate ghosts and eternal guardians and voodoo Loa. So it's a good time.
Quick question. Do heroic food trucks by definition have tacos?
This is an onion ring food truck called Put a Ring on It.
Ah, that's nice. I like it.
It's onion ring. So there you go. Well, folks, thank you very much for being wonderful panelists as always. And thanks also to everybody for watching and listening. There'll be more horror coming up here on Continual, so we'll see you online.